our most requested ideas to come out with is people love our thin mount subwoofers, but they're like, could you do one in your infamous square format?
And we did.
Can we?
I think we got one here, Kip.
Let's show them one.
This is one you got out of the factory.
That's the one we got. That's ready to go. It's fresh out of the box. Yeah, that's it. Bring it on over, Dave. That's.
Whoa, Kip.
What are you doing?
Was it supposed to fall apart like that, Kip?
Well, Dave doesn't know his own strength, apparently, but that's actually a pull-apart woofer that shows all the different parts of the new L7T. And that's what we're going to be debuting at CES this morning. And we put this video together so you can see it at the same time we're showing it on the CES show floor.
So what he's trying to say is we're going to go through every single piece and every part that goes to the speaker, because everybody wants to know how these speakers are made.
Absolutely.
And we're going to show them.
Well, let's start with one that's actually together.
Now,
Dave.
is this going to be a trick?
This isn't rigged. You can pick this one up. So this is actually an L7T. This is a 12-inch model. These are going to be available in an 8, 10, and 12. They are dual voice coil, meaning that it's a 2-layer coil system. They're going to be available in dual 2 ohm and dual 4 ohm, which means you can hook up to a variety of amplifiers, depending on how many subs you got, what amplifier impedance your amplifier create full power in. You'll be able to have all that flexibility with that subwoofer. But Dave, how do you get to there? How do we make a subwoofer itself?
Well, you know, Kip, it starts at the very, very beginning.
Well,
like a flat piece of metal.
what if I told you this was a subwoofer?
Eventually, yeah.
We hope. Here at Stillwater Designs, we do design, engineer every single one of our products.
Right here.
It starts with mechanical, ideas, sketches, mechanical drawings. Those get turned into CAD, and then we actually manufacture the tools that make our products. So we're going to start with this piece of metal here. How does this, Dave, turn into? Pick up that part at the end.
The finish good.
That's actually a completed basket of an L7T woofer that starts off the sheet of metal. So just to give you an idea, there goes through what's called pressings or stampings. And so each step progressively starts turning it into the final shape.
Correct.
So here's the first press out of a stamp, and as you can see, it's kind of the basic shape of the subwoofer basket.
The basket.
The basket right there. There's no holes in it, it's just kind of the basic shape of the product.
Yep.
And as we move forward, we move into the next one, you can see that it started punching in the frames for the windows that are on the basket.
Yep.
And then we'll move on down. We're going to skip a couple here. We'll move down into here, and you can see that all the basket holes have been punched.
Yep.
The stamping for the spider landings have punched out. There's still a back piece on here. It's like, where's the rest of the parts come through? Well, they don't come through yet. Move on down the highway.
You just can't do it all in one step. It's a process.
You have to do, and if you look at this here, I think there's 9 separate stampings that go into taking that flat sheet of metal and turn it into an actual basket.
Now, this is getting closer, Kip.
This is a lot closer. You can see compared to the other one we showed you, this now has the back punched out. It's got the alignment holes and the places where screws actually go through to hold this to the motor assembly. So it's punched. It's got the landings already to go. This is where the speaker terminals, the push terminals will go on, which you'll see on the finished product.
Correct.
But it's not turned yet, Dave.
Nope, and there's one more process that they're not thinking. Now, we have the actual lip for the top gasket.
That's the lip for the top gasket.
Yep.
So you can see when you start with just a single piece of metal,
And we're getting there.
and we end up with a punched basket that's now ready to go into the first one you held
But
up,
Kip, wait.
finishing.
There's more.
There is more.
This is that one you're just talking about.
Exactly. Now
All
that's one that's
prime
fully
painted, ready to go.
prime painted and ready to go and fully stamped out, ready to receive all the separate parts. Now, the hard parts, and that's kind of what we're covering here at this table, of course the basket, that's a hard part. And the next one is
Full piece.
the pole piece slash back plate. And that's the back part of the speaker. If you ever look at a speaker, that's the big metal slug you see on the back, but you never really see the inside because that's inside.
And that's where it starts.
And this is what it starts, is a round rod of steel. So this is a back plate and pole piece. And this is an idea, this is the first punch that it goes through. And as you can see, first off, it lost a lot of height.
It takes it down a little bit.
Takes it down a little bit and turned it into one of those little Russian Heidi dolls is what it looks like. So it turns into that slug right there in the first pressing. And then,
Those roll off the table.
Those roll off the table. And then you end up with something like this.
Through another machine.
And through another machine, you see it kind of looks like a back plate. This is the part you normally don't see, but this is the pole piece. And you can see it's one solid piece.
It's still too thick.
Too thick, and it's one solid piece. Go up to the next stamping, you can see it gets thinner and more spread out. And then finally, this is a final, before finishing, back plate slash pole piece assembly. And it's one solid piece of steel. The benefits to that are being solid, heat conduction.
Absolutely.
This has to take all the heat from the voice coil and transfer it to the back. It's like the radiator to get the heat away from the speaker as it's playing. And it also helps for magnetic conductivity. because it's one solid piece. It's better for conducting the magnetism.
I'm gonna believe you on that one, okay?
It's true.
Okay, all right, I'll trust you.
And then finally, you get to the finished product. So this has got the finish, just like you showed the basket that's got
Yes.
finish on it. This has the plating on it, so it's completely finished. And this part would end up in the back of the speaker there. We'll get into the pull part, show you more of that.
Yep.
So then we've got the back plate and the pole of the motor. This is called the top plate.
The top plate, yep.
And this is the top plate. As you can see, just like a raw part, whereas this is just a round steel slug, this is just a round, flat pie with a hole in the middle of it.
It's got to go through some machinery again.
It's got to go through some machinery again, so it goes through stamping processes. And you can see here, there's the first part, and it starts bringing up. This is one of the magical parts about the thin mount subwoofer, is in our Comp R and Comp woofers, we use what's called a bumped pole piece.
Absolutely.
This actually comes out the back of the speaker on a Comp R, Comp RT, or Comp R or Comp. On a Comp RT and the L7T, which also carries that same technology, our engineers figured out, we're trying to make the woofer as thin as possible. What if we take the bump
And put it
inside the speaker, and that gains that distance back, so it actually helps get that speaker even shallower to fit in smaller boxes. So this is actually, even though people think, well, that's the bottom, that's actually the top in an L7T.
Wow.
And then pick that part up, and you can see when it goes through that final pressing and finishing, you can see how the hole gets much bigger, thinned out. It pulls up to a nice chamfer right there. It actually has the location nubs and the places for screws to go through to assemble the entire part.
You assemble it so it all fits in there like it's supposed to.
Right, and then if we stop right here, this is the motor. No magnets. But basically this, your magnets go here, and then this goes on top, and this becomes your motor. So that's how we make a motor.
Goes through there. Yep.
Absolutely. So it's actually, you know, a lot of people don't get to see these parts of what make a speaker, but what's really cool, we thought, was showing them the L7T. Let's also show them the process of how we design to make speakers.
Sure.
I thought it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So what do you want to go from here, Kip?
Well, here's a finished one. And there's that motor that you can see on the back. There's the terminals, everything here. But let's go down here to that one that you thought was a full woofer. Pull the top
Do you
off.
want the whole thing?
Well, just pull the top
All right,
off.
here's the top off.
So this one is actually
This literally falls apart.
falls apart. It's a pull apart. But one of the things our engineers are really good at is they're good at making assemblies that go together really quick. So here's your basket. And this is the spider. We'll talk about these more in a minute. This is actually a landing piece. But this all goes together as one unit with the voice coil. So during assembly, when they're putting these together, this is all ready to go. And when it comes to the basket,
Just
this
slides
whole
right in
assembly
there.
slides in,
Yep.
goes together with adhesive, and it's ready to go. So this is an interesting part that we're going to talk about, what's called the soft parts. And that's actually at another table we got set up, Dave, so we can talk about those.
Well, Kip, you know, this technology has come a long way because I used to rebuild these along. We won't talk
Yes.
about how many years ago.
Sure.
But we used to have to slide shims and all kinds of mechanisms in there to make sure that the voice coil is aligned with
Sure,
the spider, glue it all down, and it's still a guess. This
is.
takes out all the guess.
This makes it a lot easier in the assembly process because it actually breaks down into sub-assembly parts that align themselves, and then when they come together, they're fully aligned. So like,
It's Dave proof.
it is very Dave-proof.
Yeah.
What I'm holding here, this is just the name you might see referred to in a lot of our technology papers. This is called the solo cone, meaning it's a one-piece cone that is formed, and then this is the, it's not conventional like a dust cap like most people see on the woofer, but this integrates in and locks down and makes it one solid cone. The only reason this is separate is because in assembly, they need to get in here and solder the voice coil wires
Yes.
to the tinsel leads, the lead-in wires. So as this is an assembly,
And the stitched.
and the stitch, you can see the red single stitch on there, but as you can see, this is one part, but I'm gonna break it down. And this is something that, you know, the guys here have to engineer, but this top part, which goes together, is actually 4 separate parts. So here's the cone, and of course the cone, this is an injection molded polymer blend cone. This is a Santoprene surround, okay? That's actually, as you notice, stitched onto there. So they make this part, and then, well, how do we attach this to the basket efficiently? Well, that's where we come into these parts. This is the bottom gasket, and as you can see, the woofer
Glued on.
literally just goes in there and gets glued into place. And you can see the surround is even cut out and punched to match out with the holes that are in
Absolutely.
the bottom gasket, the bottom frame. So those go in, and then once those parts go in, the top piece,
Right over it.
right over it, and you'll hear that satisfying. Now, when this is actually put together, there's actually adhesives and things that go in here. So right now, the snapping is what you hear, but that turns it into one sub-assembly part. And then, of course, this,
Dust cap.
after this is attached to the voice coil and the spider and the basket, this is the final part to go on to seal it up. It's pretty cool.
Done deal.
It's a done deal. It's really, the L7T is going to be great for people who are looking to go, I've got no space, I want great bass, what am I going to put in my vehicle? Well, now they've got two options from us. They have the Comp RT, which has been out now. This will be year 2 for the Comp RT, which is basically the round driver, thin mount.
It's been a good woofer for us.
Been a great woofer for us, which is why we did this one, is people asked, said, hey, can we have it in square? Can we have your legendary L7 technology, but do it in a thin mount? The engineers at first said, no, we don't think we can do it.
No, they said no.
Well, they did say no.
They said no.
But then they thought about it and they actually came up with a plan and said, we think we can engineer that and make it work.
I think that was driven by Mr. Irby.
I know it was driven by Mr. Irby. So that's where we come up with this. So the benefit to going to the L7T over Comp RT really boils down to if you want more bass output in your car, because the square surface area is about 23% larger than the equivalent round, you're moving more air and you're getting more bass out of a much thinner mount woofer.
Well, Kip, we need to take
Pretty
a
simple.
deeper dive in the rest of these parts. We covered the basket and the pull piece and all that, but we need to go into the other parts.
Well, let's do that. This one you broke, we're not going to use it.
Okay, let me put that
So
back
put it
down.
back.
All right, we'll put that down.
And we actually have another table. These are kind of what we call the hard parts. We're going to go to another table. We're going to talk about the soft parts, which will be pretty
Absolutely.
interesting. So stay tuned.
Look at this, Kip.
Through the magic of the white rabbit tail
Absolutely.
that's above your head,
Yeah, I know. Some rabbit's really missing that thing.
we changed the table.
We changed the table. We got all the parts that we didn't talk about the first go around.
These are what's called the soft parts. Except for one, the voice coiler isn't called a soft part, but we're going to call it a soft part for the discussion of this table.
It's on the table, Kip.
So, the part that actually makes a speaker move, you got the magnet and the motor, but then the voice coil is what actually attaches to the cone, makes it move up and down. So as you can see here, this is the starting part where we've got the former. This is a Kapton former that's round, and then the wires wound around it with an adhesive. It's baked and turned into a voice coil. Now there's multiple steps it goes through. You can see from the parts here on the table, but when we finally get to the end, it's got these insulators, it's got this fiberglass and paper on here. It actually gives you a nice gluing surface, and so this is a completed voice coil that started off as just a raw piece right there.
So if you mistreat your woofer and this thing gets in out of that pull piece and it burns up, you get that smell.
Yes,
This is what you're smelling right
That's
here.
what you're smelling
It's
right
burnt,
there.
and it's glazed over.
it's done.
It's done. It's cooked.
Yeah, it's smelly means too much power
Yeah,
into
it's
it.
too much power.
But that's the voice coil, and that's the different stages it goes through. Now the speaker frame that we talked about, sub-assembly that actually holds the cone.
Yeah.
Well, this is the stages of building that together. So when it's first out of the injection molded machine, this is what you end up with. This is the back part right here. Of course, this doesn't do us much good, but you have to have this to hold the part in the injection process.
That's your fidget tool, Kip. Show
Yeah,
them
it is-
what I'm
it is
talking
my
about.
fidget tool.
That's
Yeah.
Kip's fidget tool.
Makes a great top.
Yep.
And then once that goes through a punching and a cleaning, you end up with that back assembly like we had on the 12-inch model that we showed. So here's the back, and then the same process here, we do the front. So here's the front. When it just comes out of injection molding, you can
Yep.
see that it's shaped, it's got its pattern on it, it's got the KICKER logo
The
on
KICKER
top.
logo is now in it.
What's pretty cool, it goes through and it's punched and cleaned, so we end up with here. But I want you to notice is this KICKER logo, I don't know if this will show up on camera, but we actually do a treatment on it, so it actually gets a shiny black, and then the rest of this has got a matte black, so it's kind of a contrast. So if you can see that on camera, I don't know if you can, I'll go to camera B, but you can actually see the one that's stamped and clean doesn't have a shiny look on the KICKER, and the one that is finished has a shiny.
Now, Kip, I think it's a good spot to remind everybody again that everything that they're seeing is engineered, designed, and everything right here in-house.
All engineered in-house here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's probably one of the key things about us as a brand is since 1973, every product that rolls out of here, it's been designed, engineered, tested, tuned, tweaked, massaged, and modified to a
Everything.
final product that goes, this is KICKER, and it's all done right here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. So that's pretty cool. Then, of course, the process went through here. This is the shroud for the magnet assembly on the back. You can see this is coming out of the injection mold. It still has the part here that holds it while it's made. And then it goes through 2 stamping and cleaning processes, and finally you end up with a part. And this is the back of the motor shroud.
Absolutely.
Now, these parts here all have to start somewhere, Dave. And these parts all happen to start right here with polymer beads. This is the blend that we use. And then once this all gets melted down, turned into the injectable molded plastic, it's pushed into the different forms here to make the different parts. But all these parts you see all start their life out of it. We got them in a bag, but they actually start in a barrel.
A little, yeah, a big barrel.
A big barrel. There's lots of them.
Yep.
So, even down to, this is the speaker terminals where you actually connect the wire to the woofer. We design and engineer all of these to our own standards.
Yep.
we love the square format
And
so
again-
much that we tooled up our own square terminals.
And those have come a long way.
These have come
over
a
the
long way,
years.
a long way. But these have a very, very nice spring action to them. You can stick in there up to, I think this will hold up to a 10 gauge, maybe even an 8 gauge wire.
Yep.
Will go into there, spring loaded. We tool these. I mean, this is all the individual parts of it right here, but once assembled, it turns it into that. And then let's move down. This is the spider to cone landing connection.
Correct.
This is with out of injection mold. This is one that's cleaned up and ready to go.
Finished goods.
And if you'll notice, one of the cool parts about this is it's all tooled and ready to accept the voice coil. So the voice coil actually will come up into here and it gets glued into place.
Yep.
And then the spider, which don't grab it, it's fine. The spider will come onto here and then that all attaches.
So it all starts coming together.
It all starts coming together.
And again, it's all set up so that it just all comes together as one unit.
It
And
does.
It's just,
And if you look on the back, it's molded into the back of the cone, the solo cone, and then you notice the landings and everything are molded into the spider brace here. It literally all just snaps together, boom, and then it's put together with adhesive. So it's actually a very, very cool process how these sub-assemblies come together as a final product. But to get to here, Dave, we got a surround, a Santoprene surround, and we got an injection molded cone. How do we get here?
yep, I think it's the other.
It is the other color.
It's the other color.
This is Santoprene pellets, and these are put into a mold that turns it into a Santoprene sheet. So this pellet form turns into a sheet form,
Yep.
and then after it's a sheet, it goes into molding,
Yep.
and it turns it into this raw form that you see right here.
Not cut out.
So this has got the surround, the roll put in there. It's got our legendary corners that you have to have there.
Patented.
To make that work. Ready to go, but then it goes through the final stamping and comes out as, and there you go. That is a final Santoprene surround assembly for an L7T. Now that has to make to a cone, and again the cone, it also starts out as a polymer blend for the cone, and then this is fresh out of the injection molding machine, and you can see there's the molding tab that was
Yep.
held in the machine,
Hold it, yep.
but this is the raw part, and then it goes through the first stamping. You can see it gets more shaping, takes out the center, and then last but not least,
The L7 gets included on this one, the finished product.
and you can see it's got the finished coat on it, the paint process that goes onto that for
Absolutely.
the coating. And then after these parts are made, we talked about the solo cone. This is the cap that caps off the solo cone, which you
Correct.
gotta get in there to connect the tinsel leads to the voice coil. This is the cap that goes onto the cone to make it one full assembly. So those are all the parts.
It's like it's finished.
Looks like that. And then the one part we didn't talk about to begin with, pull out the cloth.
This?
Yeah.
Painter's cloth or
Yeah.
whatever. What is this, Kip? Fishing
Well,
net?
One of the crucial parts to a subwoofer is called the spider. And the spider sits under the basket at where the motor and the basket meet, and it helps control and center the voice coil as it's going up and down.
Correct.
So this cloth, which as you can see is extremely flimsy right here, this cotton cloth, this is after it's been treated. And you can see it's much stiffer now. It has a resin baked into it, it's much stiffer. Then these elements, as it steps through, you get to that next part, and this has actually been into a press and heat treated and formed. This is a spider that started off as cloth. And then pick up the next part, Dave. You can see in this one, it's had the center punched out and it's got all these holes put in there.
Yep.
Why would you put holes in your
Utensil leak, Kip.
Good
Gotta
idea.
have utensil leak
Grab
for
the
your
next
voice
one.
coil.
Grab the next one. So those holes that you see in this part, the reason they're there is this is where the tinsel leads are woven in. And by weaving the tinsel leads in through the spider, used to, and we did it the same way back in the ancient days, your tinsel lead just went in and looked like a big hoop underneath your
Now,
cone.
Kip, some of the problems with that is if we made the hoop a little too big,
What'd it do?
it's going to slap on here and make a noise.
And what if it was too small?
Yeah,
It'd break.
it'd break, and then the voice coil is not going to go up and down properly.
Exactly. So this allows us to get the right amount of tinsel lead in. It actually is controlled because it's in the spider, so it moves with the spider, and it keeps any mechanical noise from happening from the tinsel lead hitting the cone, and it prevents any of the tinsel lead from being broken because it's too short.
Absolutely.
So that's why they're woven into the spider there. So these are all the soft parts, all these individual parts all come together, and they make that final product that we call the L7T subwoofer.
We wanted to bring this to you guys to show you that there's not 1, 2, 3 parts. There's a bunch of parts to go into making a speaker here at Kicker.
There's a whole bunch of parts. I mean, if you just look down here at this assembly that makes for your speaker terminal, there's about 12 parts there, Dave.
Yeah.
There's a dozen parts that go into making just this small assembly, And then once this is made, this gets locked into the basket.
Did
Your
you just
tinsel
pull
leaf.
that number out, or did you guess? Because that's 12 parts together.
Well, I was a little Rain Man there. I just looked and thought there was 12.
Wow, he's good.
So
He's good.
let's look at that, did a quick count. Rain Man, I'm ready to go play poker with you anytime at the
Let's
casino.
go. Well, we're going to be in Vegas.
We'll be there.
We're in Vegas. That's
No,
right.
we're in Stillwater. Wait, we're in Vegas.
Whatever.
So hopefully this gives you a behind-the-scenes look at the brand new L7T that we're launching today, the morning of CES, day one. Today we're in Stillwater, Oklahoma shooting this for you, but when you see this video, we're actually going to be in Las Vegas, and we'll actually be presenting this new woofer to all of our dealers and reps visiting at CES. So you're actually getting a first look of this product at the same time it's being showed at CES. We thought that was a pretty good idea.
I think, I think it is.
I think it's a pretty good idea.
We both agree.
So you have questions about the new L7T, pop them in below in the social media channel. We've got techs and people who'd love to answer those questions for you.
And again, if you're ever in the Stillwater area, come by and see the visitor center. We've got all kinds of cool things that you guys can check out, and we got a place they can buy some goodies in here.
Well, you do. You can pick up your Kicker T-shirt. You can pick up your Kicker cap. Maybe you need some new headphones or earbuds.
They're all here
for the ride back. It's all here. And we got some other cool displays here in the museum. Not quite as many parts as this, but we actually have a cutaway that shows how a subwoofer works, and it's actually cut in half, and it still plays.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting.
And I built that kit.
Did you really?
I did. I built that.
We'll
Pretty
let-
proud.
we'll let
wait. There we go.
Good job.